All right, here we go, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome in on another Sunday evening, Talkin the Gridiron off-season edition. We gave you guys a bye week last week. We told you off-season is probably going to be at most every other week, and we'll see. And when it gets to like before August, the end of July, when nothing is happening whatsoever, we probably might not even do that. But we are here. Jimmy Pilato from the far end of the bench, Daren Breyer from the Fat Boy Fadeaway Sports Podcast, both of the Variety Sports Network. And we are going to move on. We're talking about the AFC East today. We're going to discuss a couple different topics within the world of sports that are relevant. I feel like even though there's a little bit of a lull of actual action going on, we're kind of right in the middle of all the playoffs. Nothing's really started yet. So we're at a little bit of an impasse, but where we are is exciting. But before we get ahead and get into that, be sure to follow at Variety Sports _ on all social media platforms, and at Fatboy Fadeaway on all social media, and at FEOTB Pod as well. Daren, I enjoyed this extra week off. I'm not going to lie to you. I know that during the season we don't have that ability, but having a little bit more time, I get to think about some things a little bit more, and more is able to happen. But how have you been? How was the time been since the last couple of weeks since we've actually got back and done this show?
It's good, man. Like, it's funny. Like, I definitely need the refresher because of I'm still doing that the basketball one every week, and obviously that. So when now during the season, not to have to do it every Sunday, I'm not going to lie. I'm okay with us I'm okay with us doing every other Sunday with that. It gives us a chance to kind of build up some of the storylines as well that we wanted to talk about. But it's good, man. I'm looking forward to talking. I know Jordan said he had to make a little run to the hospital here. So prayers up to our companion here on Talking the Gridiron as well, Jordan. A little shout out to you there. Hopefully you're doing well there too. So it's been a few weeks before we could get him on too. So it'd be nice to get him back on the show here when he can here. But yeah, looking forward to it, man. AFC East talk. I know we got some other things we're going to get into. Step into the middle of the ring, maybe. So it should be fun.
Yeah, if we want to talk about that first, that's what we've already discussed. So UFC 300, BMF title on the line, and from what I hear now, I did not buy the pay-per-view. Did you buy the pay-per-view? I don't know.
I'm not like the biggest. I'm gonna be honest. I'm not like I watch UFC, but like if somebody's inviting me over or something like that. Like I did a lot more during the pandemic, no doubt about it. I was desperate for anything on there at that time, and I watched a little bit afterwards. I do like Max Holloway is out of that my favorite fighter. I didn't watch it last night because I was doing the puppy duty, but we had that part of it, but coming on that yesterday. But he's a beast. The one thing I've always liked about him is that he's just gonna throw punches at the end of the day. He's a good, he's obviously a technical fighter too, but at the end of the day, he has that like fighter in him. And so when I saw that last like round that you're able to see the next day, that was pretty exciting. Did you end up buying it?
I did not buy the pay-per-view because it wasn't a McGregor. I'm going to buy the McGregor and Chandler card that they just announced.
203 is that what it was, or 303, something like that, right?
I'm pretty sure it's because Conor always fights International Fight Week, which is end of June, beginning of July. So unfortunately, I'll be in Vegas like 2 weeks before any of that happens. But I'll be out in Vegas for the summer. That's going to be something that I'm looking forward to. But yeah, Max Holloway gets the very last second KO over Justin Gaethje. Disappointing. Nico and I like to support the Colorado guys, and Justin Gaethje went to Northern Colorado out here in Greeley, and I think he still trains out here, or he used to. But he was getting beat on points anyways. He decided to go out swinging, which is how that belt deserves to be decided back and forth. That should never be a title that goes to the ground. There should be no grappling. We should be standing. We should be banging. That's it. That's all. It should be a glorified kickboxing match. With
the MMA like that, my butt like barely watches it, knows the sport, would just be haymaking that where they'd be like, "Yep, you waste your energy in 8 seconds. All right, now like let's go to work." And that's what you do like to see, though, right? Like that as just like you like to. How do you not beat that type of entertainment?
You also get 2 huge KOs because then the main event, Pereira, he knocked Jamal Hill out. I think Jamal Hill's hair landed in the 4th row. Like he knocks his hey, bro, you knocked his wig off.
Oh man.
Why'd you didn't have to hit him that hard, man. You didn't have to do that. Brutal. That is a stone cold killer. But I will say that for that matchup, and I think Nico and I, because we didn't get to preview any of it, we were going a little bit later this weekend for our show. We're going to do a lot of recap. I just feel like that was perfectly set up for him to do that because Jamal Hill's coming off of an Achilles injury and hadn't really fully recovered. And Pereira is in his prime in the UFC right now. I think that Pereira is beatable as a champion. There's a lot of matchups, and I have to do a little bit more research to get the specifics, but there's matchups that he struggles with because he has a different style. That kickboxing style is not necessarily built for MMA, but that was a best uppercut I've seen since Francis Ngannou knocked Glover Teixeira's tooth out.
We didn't talk about this before we came on, so like I have a question for you kind of on this topic because I didn't watch those fights. It sounds like we both didn't. But last time we talked, I did see you made a flight out to Philadelphia. My son has gotten really into wrestling, so I've been kind of following the storyline.
You want to talk a little bit about WrestleMania?
Because I do. I don't want to go the whole show. We want to get people.
Yeah, no. Well, Nico and I already did an hour, and that was too much
for a minute. And like there was, Lance, there was 2 football players involved in the match, and you saw Kittle in this, so that counts as some NFL talk. I'm just saying, for you, you've been to other sporting events, right? You've been to other games. How was that magnitude of an event? I guess
you're talking to the wrong side of the far end of the bench. Nico was the one. Be sure to listen to episode 178 because it's a full hour-long recap. It's the coolest thing that we've ever been able to experience and cover on this show, where Nico was able to go get a standby ticket. He's sitting at the airport in Denver at 6:00 in the morning, not knowing if he's getting a flight to Philadelphia. Gets on last standby ticket whatsoever on the flight, gets there, has a $300 ticket to go to WrestleMania, and is able to go to the conventions, experiences the night that was
How does
Sunday.
This guy do this?
He's got a lucky rabbit's foot or something. Things just happen to work out for him. But he's doing this. He goes, and the Undertaker is his all-time favorite guy. So the Undertaker coming back and saving Cody Rhodes was awesome for him. And then I don't know if everybody heard. But the last part of the story, so on Monday, he's still kind of walking around. That's when he goes to the Rocky statue. He goes to the footprints. He goes and he's wearing his Punters Are People Too sweatshirt because, Nico's not a dumb person. He happens to know that Pat McAfee's show is going to be filmed out of Philadelphia. So I might as well walk down.
I saw that. He met him.
His producers found Nico during the show, and he met Pat McAfee and said that Pat gave him the time of day, was an awesome dude, which I wouldn't expect anything less from what I see on camera. But like I said, there's a lucky rabbit's foot. Unfortunately, I just have to be the handsome side of the Far End of the Bench podcast. I'm not the lucky side. The lucky side and the cool side is Nico. I'll just take the looks, and that's about all I got.
Yeah. And that's funny because I thought it was you the whole time with it, but as maybe in wrestling,
I wish. Here's the thing: my brother and I.
What an entrance music here in the wrestling. We get it. We get Josh Edwards here. Stone Cold. He's out of the style. He's out of the Undertaker. Enjoy. Josh, welcome. Talking the Gridiron. I think it was week 17. Our season 1 that last time you joined here on the show here. I think if I remember right, I have a pretty decent memory. It was those Lions beating the Packers to end the regular season. That was the last time you on. Glad to have you on. I know we do the baseball together. Thanks for jumping on. I wasn't expecting this. Saw your little mug pop at the bottom there. I said, all right, we got to get on.
It feels so WWE-esque. Josh, I haven't seen you in a while. It's like a Royal Rumble return. I was like, what the? Where did the music come from? I'm flipping my light on and off, like, oh my God, who is it? Who is it? Who is it?
Well, I was prepping for Next Left Turn because we start, in like 25 minutes, and I was like, the guys are on. I'm pulling up on YouTube, and I'm like, oh, they're talking wrestling. I gotta go see what's going on.
Another wrestling nerd. All right. Should Stone Cold have come back other than the Undertaker? Undertaker was cool, but would Stone Cold have been cooler?
I think it would have been better to incorporate both of them, but I love Taker. So, that was kind of my thing. I would have rather had Stone Cold over John Cena.
Oh, yeah. Nico did say that the trumpets did have a moment where everybody, all 75,000 people heard the initial 3 horns, and then they were like, whoo. And then you hear the wave of sound just like rush to the – it has to be interesting to be a part of the crowd because even the wrestlers talk about it. Where in a normal arena, the sound is kind of like boxed in, so you hear everything and you get the reaction live. With the outdoor stadium, the sound is built to go up and out, so you don't get a feedback in from the crowd. Really, the noise is going up and out. So it would have been interesting to be a part of that crowd, because where Nico was sitting was way kind of far in the back. He got a standby ticket, and he spent $300 on the ticket to get in the door. The man hustled his way, and he was there. But that was the thing. I wonder if you could feel like the air gets sucked out of the building when Undertaker's back.
Have you guys either been to a run over the wrestling match ever? Like been to one before?
Okay,
I have. Okay,
in Pepsi Center, in the downtown Denver arena, there's been a couple Monday Night Raws Nico and I have attended.
Eventually, we'll get to an AFC East breakdown, but let's be real, people. Nobody cares about Patriots offseason this much. We're going to get into it right now. This is what. So, what I was thinking about it was, okay, if you were at the live crowd compared to watching on TV, where they can obviously script it with the TV and the video and the movie part of it.
It was beautiful.
Yeah.
It produced beautifully on TV.
It was really well.
But I'm like, okay, but it'd be weirder. To me, it'd be kind of odd from the crowd standpoint if, like, if you're seeing the Undertaker choke slam the Rock, and then you're seeing him scatter off to the right. Like, I'm wondering how that all goes down. I know they turned the lights off for a period of time, but it is
different. Yeah. So he said that he kind of felt something coming when Cena came back, because all of a sudden there were a bunch of cameramen running to the entrance of the ramp. So that was kind of the dead giveaway. But for Undertaker, since it is the lights out, the unfortunate thing is, because in our video, which I have to re-edit because WWE happens to have some nerd that they pay 13 cents an hour to, and they scrounged all of YouTube and decided to flag our content. So I have to take out some of the TikToks that I used and then put it back up. But in the video that Nico has, the lights do go out, but since it's an outdoor stadium, you can still see kind of the outer crowd, but you still get the effect of it, because in the center of it, everything goes black. You can't see anything in the center, and then he comes back, and it's Taker, and he's there. The Rock is I love this version of The Rock. I don't know how you feel, Josh. You probably have a different feeling on him because you saw him more in his prime. I've seen him in like two fairly recent feuds with John Cena, and now.
Who did you guys start watching? That's a good question. I guess like who was your champion, Jimmy, at your time? Like when you first started?
I was not DX. I was when Cena beat JBL, but I was also a really big Eddie Guerrero fan. So it was a little bit before Cena getting the title, and from pretty much then that point on, there's been certain times where it's been more exciting. Like Nico and I were talking, we watched the WrestleMania where Seth Rollins cashed in together. That was like when we first bought the WWE Network, so it was the first WrestleMania I'd ever seen, because up until that point I was just watching the recaps on Monday Night Raw because my parents were like, I'm not spending $60 on a pay-per-view. Why would I do that? I want to see what happens, and we got to watch that WrestleMania. So I know it's totally ridiculous, and I know that they had it in the doc. They were they're getting ballsy. I don't know if you guys realize they're getting ballsy. In one of those commercials, they have Triple H saying
Attitude Era.
Well, they have a Triple H saying we basically had this card written since October. So they basically have said. Like they've said that this is no longer actual competition. We know who's going to win, but it is still the most compelling thing that I've seen in the last 2 weeks. I mean, it's more compelling than UFL football.
It was. Josh, who was your champion when you were kind of in your prime there?
So I got my first taste of wrestling when Hulk Hogan was still wrestling.
Really? NWO?
I had a cousin who was into it, and he had all the action figures and video games, and I only got to see it when I was with him. And then so I kind of got into it with DX, and then I went away, and I came back when Cena and Orton were in their thing.
So that would have been like 96.
And Sheamus came back in. So when Sheamus was first introduced was when I really jumped in, and I walked away again. And when Randy Orton came back from this last injury, I was like, all right, I'm going to watch the end of his career. He's a St. Louis dude. He went to the same high school as my mom. Obviously, my mom went a few years before he was ever there, but there's still that he's from St. Louis. So I kind of want to see the end of his run. But my first WrestleMania was the first time Shawn Michaels and Undertaker clashed.
Oh, you go way back.
The best match of all time. That one. I think the 2 is good. One was better. One was better.
Triple H
had the bigger mistake.
Was almost as good as one.
Yes, Triple H and Taker had a really good one, but one had that mistake where Taker almost became paralyzed, like landed on his face outside of the ring, and then gets up and finishes the match.
Is WrestleMania one with Taker and Mankind, or is that a different one? Is that not WrestleMania? Remember, I like the one
that was where he throws him off the top of the cage with Hell in a Cell.
All right.
And I only know that because I've watched the you know how A&E has the WWE docu-series? That's actually
we have the same type of
watching it.
We have a lot of nerd crossover. We have a lot of like.
Just because we hate each other with hockey doesn't mean we still can't get along for everything else.
That's true.
I was watching the Stone Cold one the other day when I couldn't sleep. It was like 3, and even I was like, man, with the blonde hair, it was hilarious. But I had never seen the promo, and it was his story was interesting. For me, he was the guy. So in junior high, when I would have been 96 to 98, and then I was in high school from 98 to 2002. So basically his like I remember like 7th grade kids like getting like like they would get like sent to the office or referrals for giving like the second side, and like that was like
and that's the bottom line.
The second side was just a deal. Like in 7th and 8th grade, that thing was just like, and you gave that. It was
Daren. Think of it now as a teacher. Like think back to the some little punk runs up to you and he goes, "You know what? You gave me a D on my assignment. Suck it.
I got 2 awards for you."
I honestly might be proud of him. It might be like, all right, you
would not be proud of him. You would not be proud of him. You would grab him by his shirt and you would be like, "Oh, so we want to wrestle now."
If he did it with the knowledge in mind, trying to be a smartass, I might give him a pass. If he was trying to be a smartass, better. My son, I was telling Tyler today when we did Fat Boy, I was like, it's kind of funny because my son, he's 8, but he's like, guys, when I say obsessed, he's obsessed. So like he's been obsessed for a couple of years. So he's the one that's kind of got me kind of back into it a little bit, kind of from the old school standpoint. Like I've really been out of it for like 25 years, and he kind of slowly got me back. So like once in a while, I'll think he's serious. He'll be like, "Hey, Dad, what's that kid's name in 2nd grade?" And I'll be like, "Oh, Austin." He'll be like, "It doesn't matter." And I'll be like, "Oh, you son of a."
So he is really smart.
So,
He's putting like things together properly.
And I'll be like,
he knows the bit. He gets
the
bit.
Trouble.
He does. So like,
Aaron.
me and him mess with each other. I'll be like, what did Mrs. Williams? What's her name in there? And he'll be like, dang it, I fell for it. So it's kind of funny how wrestling. For me, it was always like me and my brother were getting fights about it because I'd be like, oh my gosh, I just want to watch sports. Your baseball tonight, and you're watching freaking Sting here on WCW fight the Lex Luger.
That's a dated reference, Daren.
Yeah. That's what it would be like. We'd be upstairs arguing about it, but he got up there first, and my mom wouldn't let anybody else get the controller because he was. So I was like,
"Mom, he won't let me watch baseball. He wants to watch Sting scream instead."
Yeah, or Chuck Damn Norris or something like that. He'd watch Texas Rangers.
Chuck Norris was cool, dude.
It was good. It was all right at times. It was like over the All-Star, but it was fun with it. So. It was like I even thought the tag team match was good.
Which one?
The last one with The Rock. He did better than I thought.
Oh,
you know what? Better, but
I didn't think the power. I didn't think the move at the end was as good as it was. A little slower. Obviously, getting.
I would say I didn't like the Usos match. It was interesting. It was bold. It was It was not the payoff that they wanted. And I feel like they would say that too, because they've been kind of open in saying that they have always wanted to wrestle each other at WrestleMania, and that wasn't the match that they wanted to have. But they didn't have very much time. They got pushed around by the other matches on the show. They had 2 of the same Rocky storylines playing, or 2 different Rocky storylines playing out on both nights. Because the Sami Zayn Chad Gable was like a bold ripoff. It was Sylvester Stallone could sue WWE for that storyline. Don't forget, you owe me a favor. Where have I heard that before?
Yeah.
What's the European guy's name? The kind of tall guy. What's his name again?
Gunther.
Do you think he's in the race now that he got knocked out of the intro? Do you think he now is going to get like a title chance sometime?
I think he's going Drew McIntyre. I think he wins World Heavyweight Championship.
Well, hold on. Damian Priest has the World Heavyweight Championship.
Oh yeah, no, that's what I mean. He'll beat Pete. He will beat Priest.
Does Roman Reigns take a year off?
I think he takes some time.
I think he has like medical things going on. That's the thing about him, is that he has that leukemia, and it's kind of like always present. It's never 100% away, which is incredible because you think about it. He's had the title for 1,361 days. Or something like that.
What do you think happens with Paul Heyman if he's gone for a little bit?
He'll find somebody else.
Paul Heyman can do whatever the fuck.
That's what I'm saying. Like,
not to be brass, but if we're talking about Paul Heyman, I feel like I have to be. Paul Heyman can find the next pile of you know what, and he will press him between his butt cheeks and make a diamond.
He's gonna do it with Austin Theory. That's my.
I would love that because Austin Theory has a lot of untapped potential, and he's so dumb right now with Grayson Waller. That should make it's the worst. That was the worst part of WrestleMania was that match, the one where they were in. I didn't like that, except I did like R-Truth at the end of it.
Yeah.
You know what move was the one where I was like, okay, this sport is a different, like, where I was like, these guys are legit, where people put their, like, literally you're trusting other people with your life. Like, was that, I don't know, I don't even know enough about the guys to know it, but it was the ladder match where they were trying to get the belt at the top. And there was some guy in green underwear, basically, that got lifted up from one other guy at the top of the ladder, and he fell back, and they just, like, right there, I'm like, man, just like, I don't know, 5 inches one way or the other, and you're like, your neck is in a different story or something. Like, I just remember thinking, like, gosh, that was ballsy to let a guy, like, just slam you like that. That was incredible. I saw that. And they had some other ones where they were jumping off into, like, tables. So that match, to me, was pretty good. I thought, just from that standpoint.
Did you guys watch? Here's the thing that nobody's going to want to admit, but I feel like Nico and I didn't even touch on this enough, and he was there. Logan Paul is legitimately a good performer in the WWE. The fact that he carries the title that he does, it's the U.S. title, so it's not like the Intercontinental title where you're expected to be the best one in the business. The guy doesn't have any of the experience of any of the people that he's wrestling, and he doesn't look half bad. That was a good triple threat match at WrestleMania. It was entertaining. Was it as good as it could have been? Like if it was Kevin Owens and Randy Orton, would it have been better? Yes, but the three of them told a compelling story, and I think that you can get by with that because that's what the U.S. title is there for. The U.S. title is there. The U.S. title makes no sense now that we don't have territories. When there's no territory outside of the U.S., it's bullshit. It makes no sense. You just call it the U.S. title to have the flag on it and to sell merchandise. That's all the WWE does with that one. So Logan Paul being the champion actually makes and it's great, and it makes sense that he is. That's all he is. He's selling his stuff. Prime. Think about that. All the people who watched WrestleMania this weekend stared at a Prime bottle in the center of the mat for the entire weekend.
And when the Prime bottle got beat up, it was fantastic.
That was also fun.
I like how they don't mention the location for 2025.
I know. I was looking because I told my brother we got to do what Nico did. I'm buying standby tickets as early as I can.
I like that. It helps the storyline a little bit, don't you? Like for me, it does. Like if I know that somebody might go to this place and that's their hometown, like that might affect how I look at a storyline. For me personally, I mean, I know
honestly that.
Is there some? I don't know. I don't know if there's a situation. If I attended a WrestleMania, I think that it's legitimately just to go and experience that because not like it's not been popular, but it wasn't the cool thing to do when I was in school.
No, you guys were in that era. Weren't you guys?
It was the PG era, but there were still people who liked it, but it was like it was much more niche. And it was actually more fun to be on the internet talking about it than actually watching the WWE. And that's where I fell back into it because it was whatculture.com, and they would do like fantasy bookings, and then I would come up with fantasy bookings in my head instead of studying or whatever I was supposed to be doing in college. It sounds bad coming from a teacher, but I learned the hard way. That's how I learned my lessons.
We become good teachers. We teach to not do
it. We have so many teachers on this network. Can you guys realize that?
Yeah.
That's what
there was a point where I wanted to be a teacher. And then I found out what it paid, and I was like, nope.
Should have joined the club. If you join the club, the more years you put in, the more money you make.
It's
like a pyramid scheme.
Exactly. Guys, I want you to tell you guys have a great show. The worst female right now in the WWE is the new Tiffany girl. I cannot stand her character. And she had a wardrobe malfunction on Friday night. I don't know if anybody else caught that. It was minor. It was slight. But if you were watching the match, you saw it. And I hate her character, man. I hate her character. For a chick, she's horrible. She does it well, though. She plays it well.
My wife always like change the what. My wife always says change those. I don't want. She'll say it to my son. She'll change those. And she's like, I don't get it. She's like, I don't. So those ones are always. My daughter though is funny in the wrestling. Pick the girl. Pick the girl. She's like 4 years old, always telling them to pick. So I was like, well, at least she wants them to be picked. Or that, hey, have a good NASCAR show tonight. I'll see you Wednesday.
Jimmy, it was good seeing you, buddy. It's been a while.
Yeah, it's good to see you too.
Let's get you on an off season here. Maybe when we do Colts or something else like that. Will you want
down?
AFC South will be coming up here soon. I feel like we'll go AFC then NFC. I don't really have a plan. We're just kind of pulling it out.
I can talk all kinds of crap about the Colts. You want me to?
Jimmy, we have a plan. We're going division by. We have a plan. We just don't know what it is. We have.
Daren, it's much more impressive if you tell people you don't have a plan and then continue to follow through.
That's a storyline, people. We like it. I like a wrestling storyline. All right,
guys, have a great show. I will, Jimmy. I'll see you later. Daren, I will see you Wednesday night.
All right, man. Take it easy. Later. That was fun having it pop in. I love like the fact that we were able to kind of go off with us to give us a different feel for the show here a little bit.
Yeah.
Show people over that. I mean, I'm telling you, like, for me, it was actually a big deal. I didn't get to talk about it enough with on the podcast this morning, so it was fun. And it is fun that you see like professional athletes, like you saw Kelsey, you saw John.
Kelsey, did you see how easily he jumped over that top rope? And this is a guy that's been saying like, I got to retire because of my hips. I was like, I think are you going to wrestle in a couple of WWE matches, Jason? That's what this feels like. This feels like where we're going here. And Lane Johnson those two are big. If you don't look small in a ring with other WWE athletes, you are big. So it was impressive. It was cool all the way around.
They're in a good spot right now, WWE.
What?
They seem like they're in a good spot right now.
Well, I mean, 157,000 live attendance over 2 days. However many people watched it live on Peacock, plus through whatever illegal stream that you watch it from, because that still happens. Everybody's giving Triple H his flowers. You and I talked all about that, so we don't need to talk anymore. But just like, yeah, it's in an interesting scenario. And honestly, it's very similar to the 90s. And I know that you would know this, but like when WCW was starting to – because AEW was cool for a second. It was new. It was cool. It got good. And now it's kind of like going over they call it jumping the shark, but it's kind of jumped the shark. And now you're starting to fizzle out. It's either going to just be TNA where nobody ever watches it, or WWE is going to buy it. And then that's the next invasion angle. Like we're just seeing a repeat of what we saw in the 90s happen with WCW and AEW. It feels like.
And it seems like Triple H is a big part of it with it. The wrestling part, that was fun for it. That really was kind of a different for it. And obviously as we kind of break through,
we're versatile here. It's called the Variety Sports Network.
Yeah, and we've been doing it. One thing we've been trying to talking to the guys, we've been trying to do more shorts like with the show, so that we'll be cutting some of that stuff in our conversation with that along the way here with it. Did you? You wrote down AFC East this is the week. You wrote, like you said, with Josh. Yes, you're right. It is a little random, but we went with AFC East this week. What they traded for Diggs, what's kind of your big stuff with them, or do you have a different storyline you want to go with
before we get into the modern day team? I feel like the biggest storyline over the last 2 days, especially with the NFL and the AFC East, especially is because of his ties to the Bills. But it's OJ and him passing away, because he was, I don't know if you can get a more mired figure, and you can still look at his statistics, and there were seasons like he's having better seasons than a lot of the guys that we've seen dominate the league for the last 10 years. I'm not going to read off the statistics because I don't really feel like giving him credit, because I do believe that he was. I laughed much more at the tweets that were like, "Oh, thank God OJ can finally rest, knowing that his wife's killer has finally been killed." I was like, that too soon, but yes, that was good. And now
Jimmy.
What
year?
I was born in 97, so I was born after. I was born 3 years after.
What did your parents say about it? What's your because I was in 6th grade listening to John Men's and we had it on the TV. So that's my grandparents talked about it every single day for a year with everybody. So my perspective is going to be a whole lot different.
Did you watch the chase? Were you able to watch the chase?
Because I was watching the Knicks Rockets thing.
So, No way. Okay. So
my perspective is a lot different than yours with it.
Yeah. If I were to sum it up in an expression, it would be because if you're that, and we watched the series on FXX as a family when they did the one with Cuba Gooding Jr. My brother's he wants to be in law school. He wants to be an attorney. So it was interesting. We were watching that, and just the way that the prosecution botched, you had all of this. It was circumstantial, but you didn't have to present it as circumstantial, and you let OJ manipulate, and you let him do all of these things, and he walked away from probably one of the more open and shut cases that should have ever been happening in the time. And OJ you want to think about these athletes as like great benevolent people, and there are some that deserve that moniker. And this is why I wanted to bring up the topic, is because it's always up for discussion. These people, there's a high likelihood that like they're psychotic, sociopathic. We don't know anything about these guys. They carry a ball on Sunday, and we watch them run around on the field for 3 hours. It's all we really know about these people.
But the thing about him that was so much different was the fact that it was like I said, it's hard. Like I always said, 1994. So I feel like we're a ways out from this. It's like 30 years. It's like
it's 30 years. That's
somebody died from the obviously. So we're never always putting disrespect on that. But like it'd be hard to write a script that happened the way with a star athlete. He was on CBS. He was like their number one guy with things. He was on TV shows.
That show seems so ridiculous. That docudrama seems so ridiculous.
The juice. And then the Bronco chase, just everything, man. Like the trial.
You just sit there and you're like, how is Ross from Friends actually pulling this off right now?
It was one of the weirdest moments. I'm in 6th grade. Like I think I was in 5th. We went to our 6th grade class watching it. Like I just remember it being that big of a deal. To where our teachers wanted to put it on TV in June.
Oh, as a social studies teacher, especially if I was teaching anything that had to do with like American government or politics or judicial system, anything like that, I would be showing this. I would not plan anything for like 3 weeks. Oh, yes, please. We're going to talk about how the judicial system is fair and how the jury process works. And then when they have to bring in new jurors because they accidentally read the newspaper, it'd be like, oh, and I got 2 more weeks of material right here.
I'm impressed that you wanted to bring him up though that because I know a lot of people like they're like, well, you want to talk. It's like it still was a big part of like for me, like seriously, it was a big part of like just a moment for a year in my life. It was
he's not the only person that's done something, and you had it scrolling across the bottom of the screen when Josh was on, and I saw the Rashee Rice thing, but you have guys on. You're a fan of a lot. For those of you that are just now tuning in to Talkin the Gridiron, this is an off-season episode, so that's why we had wrestling up front and everything like that.
We're having fun here. It's a Sunday. We're teachers. It's a Sunday night. We're trying to enjoy it before we go to hell for a week. I'm just kidding.
You're not too far off on that description there. Daren is a fan of the Las Vegas Raiders. I'm a fan of the Cincinnati Bengals. We are very familiar with having to defend people like, hey, it looks like he's turning his life around, okay? That's something that we always have to do. I wanted to bring up OJ because, like I mentioned, as a football player, you can't mention like too much bad. Heisman Trophy winner, was the NFL's leading rusher for however many years he was able to hold on to that record. Like an absolute stud on the field. But it turned out to be one of the more he's so sociopathy to a T, where you get away with it on a technicality. You lose the civil suit, so then you're already pissed off because you hate losing, because you think that you're above the law and nothing should be sticking to you. You sell off all of your shit to pay for this, and then you get arrested for trying to steal the stuff that you sold.
For 9 years, he goes to jail.
That was honestly, I knew about him being in jail for stealing his stuff back, and I knew about the Family Guy clip where he stabs somebody at the very end of the episode after he finally gets them to all believe that he's a good guy again. Those are the 2 things that I knew about O.J. Simpson. He's like, oh, yeah, I made a mistake, and it won't happen again. And then in the next 2 seconds, and the juice is loose again.
He goes back there with that. I forgot about that. Yeah. So that was a big story there with it. You're right. You got any last thoughts with it before we move on?
No,
To
I just think it's a perspective that people always have to keep in
of
mind.
course.
Like there's people all throughout the league are so whatever team that you root for, you have somebody on that roster that's probably done something that you would deem unsavory. So don't like ignore it, but it's also something like don't judge it, because if you judge them, it's just not a good idea.
Well, the
Like,
modern day example would be what Aaron Hernandez, I guess, in some regard. That would be the way that we a little different scenario, but that would be the modern day guy there with that. Bills, I guess they do trade. Go to straight football here for a minute. We'll kind of move our way through it here, probably a little quicker with it. They trade Diggs to the Texans. It seems like there's an opportunity for them to trade up in the draft. That's kind of just what I put down as some storylines with it. I'm sure you have some other stuff with them as well.
They're losing a lot, and you're banking on the fact that Josh Allen is going to be this guy that's able to take you over the hump. And I was surprised how much I was in the minority. I know that when we talked about the Stephon Diggs move, and I posted a couple of things on our account, I said the culture killer strikes again. He's just finding another. I should have made the meme where the Grim Reaper's just knocking on doors, because it's just Stephon Diggs finding new locker rooms to go in and infect. Maybe he had a point, I guess. There's a perspective to be seen, like where Diggs, we're getting close every time, but we can't get past the divisional round. Why? We're paying our quarterback. Am I not getting the ball enough? Maybe he didn't present it in the right way, but maybe he was right to be frustrated, because now you look at the Buffalo Bills, and if we look at the division where you have the Bills, Jets, Patriots, and Dolphins.
Is Allen having to do too much?
He is having to do too much, but honestly, at this point, I don't know if he knows how to do it any other way. I feel like Josh Allen needs to do hero ball, because that's what he's always played in the NFL. He needs to have the ball in his hands 98% of the time, and 2% of the time he'll turn around and hand it off to whomever they have in the backfield.
I mean, they got Curtis Samuel from the Commanders. That's the receiver they brought in along the way here. We'll see if he can kind of jumpstart it. I feel like the Diggs, we'll get into that addition for the Texans in a while. We'll see.
When we have Josh back on to talk about the AFC South, we'll talk about
I feel like that one might be, well, we'll get into that one. So we'll see if they trade up. For the Jets here, will Salah survive the Jets season? I mean, him and the owner just keep going at it, it seems like.
He's going to have to do a lot early on, because he's not going to have a very long leash. I think the fact that he's still there, he should be thanking his lucky stars, because I don't know. I guess it's the Avalanche in 2023.
The injuries, I guess.
No, it's the Avalanche in 2023 and the Jets in this past season, where they handled injuries to star or key or crucial or pivotal players worse than anything that I've ever seen. Because the Avalanche knew that there's a possibility Landeskog never comes back last season, and then at the trade deadline they don't make any moves and they don't do anything.
That's
the
fair.
Jets know, okay, Aaron Rodgers continues to tell you, I'll be back by week 11. You have plenty of medical professionals in your team to be able to look at you and say, hey, that's impossible. He is not coming back this season. He'll be very lucky to start next season. The only reason why he's going to start this upcoming season is because it was the very first weekend, 5 minutes into the game. He literally lasted like 72 hours into last season. So it takes you a year to recover. A year is now starting of the next year.
That's true. What did you think about them bringing in Smith at left tackle from the Cowboys and Mike Williams, who gets hurt? Like those are their two big wide veteran signings there. They bring in Kinlaw, who's been for the Niners at as a first round pick.
I think that they're probably
Williams maybe.
I don't know if they're going to be better on offense. If Aaron Rodgers plays, then you expect them to be. But did they waste? Their defense was so good, and it's unfortunate. If you're a Jets fan, I would be so mad that I wasted a defense that was like that.
I get so frustrated when it happens either side of the ball. You're like, my gosh, we're scoring 30 points. We're giving up 34. Like, what is happening here every time?
That was how until we saw it proved with Peyton Manning. That was the narrative in 2015. I remember it clear as day. Like, we can't score more than 22 points. How are we ever going to expect to win a Super Bowl? And then our defense was like, wait a second, hold my beer. I'm going to make Cam Newton quit in the second quarter. Watch this.
We're going to get that with it. How about, we talked about another OJ. How about this OJ? OJ Mayo, can he develop the new Pats era? What QB do they draft in the third pick? Do they draft a QB? I would think they would. I heard May's a big pick from North Carolina. Daniels.
They draft Drake May. I've heard that's because so you know who Merrill Hodge is, right?
Yes.
Merrill Hodge has been on the record saying that Drake May is not only such a bust that if you draft him within the top 5, you are totally corrupting your franchise and going to poison them for the next years. He's like, this is a guy that's going to get you fired. Merrill Hodge goes all the way to this guy. If you draft him in the top 5, well, honestly, is it better for or here's the question that we should answer: is it more insufferable when the Patriots are Patriots fans more insufferable when the Patriots are good or when the Patriots are bad? Because I can't really find. I hate them either way. And now having to do this show and having to do my show with all the NFL stuff. And Boston, I'm not going to say that I don't dislike. I like Boston. I like the Whitey Bulger story. There's a lot of mafia ties, both Irish and Italian, and that happens to be my heritage. Like, I'm not totally against Boston, except I can't stand any of your sports teams. Any of them.
I'm with you. And I respect the fan base. I always said Red Sox one of the best out there with it, but they deserve a little losing here for a little bit. We'll see if he develops it. OJ, they didn't sign anybody. Massive in the offseason either.
Are they 3? They're 3, aren't they? They're the 3rd overall pick.
Yes, they signed Jacoby Brissett as a quarterback. They re-signed.
What did they take? JJ McCarthy at number 3.
Jennings at linebacker. They signed as well. Osborne at receiver. They signed. So they didn't really go. I know my friend Adam out here is a big Patriots fan. He was not happy with the offseason they had. So I would say he wants Daniels from LSU. That's who he really wants. So we'll see if that's what they can get.
I think that he's going. So I've done a mock draft video, which people can go back and watch at the Far End Bench YouTube channel at FEOTB Pod. And I did Jaden Daniels number 2 to Washington.
I think you're right.
I think that Washington tried, and I don't think that it was anything Sam Howell did or didn't do, but they just had nothing to do with anything around him. So last year he ended up getting sacked as many times as he was, and just never was able to develop. And Washington tried to say, "Oh, we want to keep him around." All signs point to this new regime saying, "Whoever was here understands Snyder needs to go." This is like a purge. I am the chemotherapy. Dan Snyder was the cancer. I am purging everything, and that includes possibly healthy blood cells. So while Sam Howell, you may have not been the issue last season, you were around during the Dan Snyder era, and I just can't – there's a possibility that you're going to infect the rest of the team. So I don't want you here. I need to get rid of you, and I need to bring in something new. And I think Jaden Daniels is probably going to be more for Washington. But if he falls, Jaden Daniels would be an interesting – because remember, for a while there, Cam Newton was kind of fun with Bill Belichick.
Yeah.
I feel like that might be and now with the Patriots under the new era where a coach is actually.
I think that's why he wants him. I think that's why my buddy wants him. I think he feels like maybe there's a little bit more potential up there with them, and it'll be interesting. Like they didn't get anybody. Like again, they continue to not sign too many guys in free agency.
Robert Kraft is too busy spending his weekends in Florida for whatever reason.
He's got those.
Whatever reason he does that for.
Good transition there to Florida. Did the Miami do enough? They always seem like they've been dying out as we've been doing the last 2 years, right? They've died out a little bit at the end. And we'll do a deep dive as we get in closer to the season here. But we're just having some fun here tonight. Early April here before the draft. Has Hill broken down is what I put as a note to his contract. What's your kind of thoughts on the Dolphins here? I'll get into the signings.
I've told the story on the show before, but I do listen to Mark Schlereth quite a bit. He's on our local radio station, and they were playing their second Super Bowl, but the Broncos won when they went back-to-back under Elway. That was in Miami. Mm-hmm. And that was since they had already played a Super Bowl. They went out 2 weeks before. and Shanahan let them have a week to do whatever. And he was basically like, by Saturday night, I want that to be where your detox starts. By Monday morning, we show up, we game plan. It's a normal week. And then they ended up winning. But that Monday that they came back into the facility, one of their like backup guards walked into the offensive line room, and he just starts writing on the grease board. He's going with his expo marker, and he's like, and the offensive linemen are sitting there like they're drinking their coffee, eating their donuts. Like, what's going on? He turns around, and he sits back down in his chair. Okay, spill it. What's the deal? This is why no team from Miami will ever win a professional sports championship, because those are all the strip clubs that I visited within the last week. 22 separate names. And having a guy, here's the thing, Tyreek Hill thrived in Kansas City because it's hard. Rasheed Rice begs to differ, but it's hard to get yourself in trouble in Kansas City. In Miami, you have a lot of temptation. You have a lot of.
But that's not why they're getting bad at the end of the season.
Well, I feel like they're probably. I mean, at the end of the season, when Tyreek Hill thinks we are what we are,
he's gonna hurt. Is he breaking down?
I don't know if he. I mean,
or is it bad luck?
He is an explosive athlete, and he is getting older. And explosive athletes lose their athleticism as they get older. I just don't. I think that Mike McDaniel. I'd like to think that he's smart enough to be able to get him over the hump, but last year was his first crack at things. Tua is Tua.
It'll be interesting if they give him a massive contract, though.
I don't think that he will.
Yeah.
I don't think that they're going to. I could see maybe a bridge deal offer. I feel like.
Who are they going to go to?
No, I just think that instead of giving like. Because normally a second contract is when you get 5 to 6 years and all of your big money.
Right,
instead of doing that, Miami maybe goes to Tua and tells him, hey,
yeah,
nobody's really going to give you as good of a shot as we are. We're not going to give you a ton of commitment, but we'll give you 2 years guaranteed, say $8 million, so $16 million guaranteed contract. We can do that for the next 2 years, and if we can figure it out, we figure it out. If we don't, hey, no hard feelings. You go out, you get your money wherever else is backup, because that's what Tua. That's where we are with Tua's career. I don't think that he's done enough to prove that he deserves a second contract. The concussions were scary, so I don't think that Miami or any organization in the NFL is going to want to look at committing to Tua. But I think that you can give him 2 years, and that is going to be a very, very easy decision at that point, because we've had what is he? Is he going into year 4?
Yep.
Yeah. So he's going into year 4. So he's got 3 seasons, and one of them was injury riddled, so you can't even really count it. How much does he get done at the end of this season, and is it worth Miami of maybe negotiating a bridge deal? Or is there a team? I don't know. Do you think that there's a team desperate enough to throw as much money as Tua wants at him?
Hi, Raiders. Hi, Raiders. Hi, Broncos.
You would do that?
I'm not saying I would. But I'm saying I think there's teams out there that are desperate for quarterbacks, and Tua's numbers are his numbers. And I think he proved he's won a championship. I think he'll easily get over $180 million. 5-year deal, which maybe isn't that much, but I think he'll get that.
Have you ever seen a Blazing Saddle?
Yeah, I have.
Holy underwear.
Holy underwear. I hear you on that. So we got that. We'll see what that Dolphins with it. I have a feeling, Jimmy, we'll be talking a lot about them again next year as we head into the offseason preview here with it. Hey, as news and notes here at the bottom, people falling around here tonight. My favorite one I had as loser of the week this week for Fat Boy was Tom Brady says he's not opposed to coming back late in the season. You just stay out of the game. We don't need you anymore. Your boy Higgins, he's tagged. As you know, he says he expects to stay with your Bengals. Aiyuk rumors going wild in San Francisco. His agent said that no, there's no rumor going out there, but there is no doubt about it. He wants to get paid, so you know that's coming. So they're with it. So a little few news and notes here at the bottom as well. You guys got to have Higgins. You have to have him back with you
for this season. I think that's it. I don't know. I don't know what the Bengals do when they franchise tag you. Maybe they like go to your mother's house and like piss on her doorstep or something. Because when they franchise tag people, it pisses them off to no end and like makes it so that because the whole idea of the franchise tag is I'm going to keep you around for this year so that we can continue to negotiate your contract and figure something out. That's the whole reason why it's in the collective bargaining agreement as an option. But for whatever reason, it seems like when the Bengals players do this and they get franchise tagged, it's like they go, Puh. Yeah, I'm franchise tagging you, bitch. What did I do? It's like I wanted to stay here, but we just needed a little bit. Like Mike Brown is still sitting on his wallet. Just you didn't have to be mean about it. You didn't have to be rude. But maybe that's what the Bengals are doing. It just seems so odd to me that every time this is supposed to be, you get paid decent money as a franchise tag player. Let's not forget that. People like that. Oh, but if you get injured, but you can get injured up until very recently in the NFL. You can get injured at any point, and your contract is done. So goodbye, forgotten. Because there is no guaranteed. It's not baseball. It's not basketball. It's not hockey. There is no guaranteed money unless you very much. You need to negotiate that into your contract. So I think he should stay.
I'm with you. I'm with you. Totally agree with that. And he's a great receiver along with Chase. I feel like the combination of both those together is a very special duo. They're different, and one's big. I just think they're a good duo together.
I don't think he is the number one.
That's what I mean. I think it's a good duo together.
No, I know, I'm even saying if he wants to go out and test it in free agency, I don't think that T is the number one receiver. I think T does very much. He does a lot more as the second guy that you don't have to worry about because you can defend size now. You can defend these natural gifts, but when you have to worry about it one-on-one, because on the other side you have Jamar Chase, who's probably arguably the greatest receiver in the game right now. I know that I'm going to have a text message from who's ex. Who is her brother, and he's going to be telling me how good Justin Jefferson is and how much he's better than Jamar Chase. But I think Jamar is the number one receiver.
No, I think you're right.
I don't know why he would want to leave that situation. No, you have Joe Burrow, you have Jamar Chase. Whether or not
he's going to make you a lot of money, Burrow's going to make you a lot of money.
He's going to. If you stay there, think of the endorsements. Think of whatever. But
New Balance.
If say he goes to the Raiders, who's going to be his quarterback?
Exactly.
Not anybody compared to Joe Burrow.
Mr. Minshew coming in here with you. We got there.
I love Gardner Minshew, but Joe Burrow would. Burrow is the Leo DiCaprio scene from Wolf of Wall Street, where he's first selling his stock and teaching everybody else his methods, and he's like licking his fingers. So that's as far as I'll go, because I know we're not quite. You're still at like 720, so we're not quite at like X-rated hours. So that's as far as I'm going to go. There's a radio show that I've been starting to listen to on their podcast version, but they always like to push it. They basically they're the trashy radio station that they somehow convince everybody to call in and tell their worst stories. Like, tell us about the time you had relations with somebody besides your partner.
Everybody
and people call in and they're like, oh, well, it was this time. And then somebody else calls in and is like, hey, that was my girlfriend. They go, uh-oh.
That's what I want right there. As we're kind of glad. It's so true. People like that's what sells, Jimmy. We know that. It's not a good segment we have. It's the drama. It's the unnecessary conversations we have with it that sells. Can I get to trivia with you this week? This might be a tough one for you, but I think you might be able to get it. You know the game a little bit here with the NFL trivia. Who am I? All right. I was named NFL Defensive Player in 2007. So I was named as Defensive Player 2007. That's your first hint. Pretty decent hint there with it. Doesn't necessarily mean you have to take a guess on it, but that is the first one. Defensive Player 2007. I'll give you a hint number 2 here. I was selected to the Pro Bowl twice in my career and retired in 2013. Big hint here at safety.
No, I'm totally off because I was thinking 2007 and then 2007 into 2008. That was the year that the Giants beat the Patriots. I was thinking maybe like OCU Manura, Michael Strahan. But now as a safety, I'm off. So I'm going to have to reorient myself.
All right, let's go live the last 10 here. Hit number 3. See if he knows this will be a college knowledge. I went to Iowa. I was a safety from Iowa that was a defensive player of the year.
Can I have conference that he played in?
Big Ten, Iowa.
No. In the NFL,
AFC South. AFC South. I'll give you a clue. You can spell his first name backwards, forward and backwards. It's the same way.
Bob Sanders.
That boy.
I loved playing as Bob Sanders in Madden 08. That was awesome.
As we get his kind of stuff up here on the screen, this is some of his hits and highlights. And I thought this was kind of, as we do it through it, like these are launches. He was one of those guys that obviously had a short career.
He'd be fined so hard today. He would never get on the field.
Just levels the dude right here. Just bang right to your helmet, man. Take a seat, meat. Right there with it. Like, you're right. For video game purposes, I mean,
I would turn the offsides off so that you can just sprint at the line the entire time because it wouldn't let you cross. And I would go and I would change to Bob Sanders, and I would be blitzing as like an extra defender off the edge. I was basically running like that free safety middle blitz that they have, but I was already having a head start. So the other guy would snap, or the computer would snap, and Bob Sanders would be in his quarterback's grill, like breaking his leg. And I'd be like, sorry about it.
And you're right. Like in Madden, safeties like him were the best to use. They were like the best absolutes. Like these are some of his great plays here on the screen.
He was
picking off McNair here. Like
he was so good.
How does Iowa get all these good defenders to Iowa? By the way, Iowa, they always have a way of getting these defenders along the way. So I just thought
a touchdown though. Caitlin Clark outscored the Iowa football team in her time at Iowa. Shout out Caitlin Clark. Also shout out South Carolina and UConn because March Madness has ended. We didn't get to talk about the ending.
No, we didn't. Super Bowl here. Here's the pick to end it.
Ooh.
Bob Sanders. Was it the clue? Spell it backwards. That's one of them. I like it. That
was when you said safety, I did start thinking Bob Sanders initially, and then I asked you conference. But when you hear safety, you automatically think like Troy Polamalu or Ed Reed, because I think those are the two. As good as Bob Sanders is, Ed Reed and Troy Polamalu are just that much better.
Well, they are. They're really just one of the best. And as we kind of wrap up the show here, I kind of been doing we did the NFL flashback last week in the video. I wanted to show you. Speaking of Big Bob and those big hits, here's a college hit. Just because we have the draft coming up from 1990, and you talk about a guy. This against Auburn, Ohio State versus Auburn. Basically, the guy gets absolutely jacked up on a screen. It kind of reminds me of the Reggie Bush kind of feel on it as I get it up here. So let me add it to the stage here. Did it go here?
They'd be overmatched, and you want to keep his offense out for sustained drive to keep his defense off. Flat out ball.
Oh.
And there was the biggest hit maybe of the 1989-90 bowl season.
You got barbecue back there? You
did it down as he was struck by Zach Dumas. Dumas, a fellow that came to this university as a running back and said, I don't like this. What I want to do is hit
How many times do you think he called him a Zach Dumbass?
A knockout blow.
Oh, man.
You see this ball? Now, he's going to get hit just about the time that ball hits his hands.
Oh.
Dumas just unloads on him.
Beautiful. That was totally clean, even now.
Oh, man. 1990s football there at the back. Out there at Ohio State.
Yes, boys and girls, by the way, the scoreboard didn't always used to be displayed on the screen.
No, it did not. Man,
and there was no first down marker. There was no first down yellow line.
There was no yellow line. You're right. There was no yellow line. That's a great call there, Jimmy, with that. Man, but that was a mass. That's as bone crunching as I've seen. When I saw that, I thought, Jordan, I thought Ohio State with him was going to be on. I wanted to see if you knew who Dumas was, but that hit was just. And that reminded me of the Reggie Bush one a little bit. That's the one I could think of. Like quarterback makes that little. You remember that one?
Because there was no fumble. It reminds me a lot of the Denzel Ward, which is what I was doing to Gus Johnson when Denzel Ward hits the guy on Maryland. You got barbecue back there? You didn't fight me? Hurt my feelings. I love Gus Johnson because I love Joel Klatt because he's a Colorado guy.
That pretty good, Gus. Did that pretty good of Gus. Pretty impressive.
Well, I played a lot of Madden 12.
It wasn't bad there.
He's got to get away from the cap speed. I did not know. By the way, I did not know Gus Johnson was black. So when he was like, "You got barbecue back there," I was like, "What the? He didn't get fired."
It's gonna get fired for. Yeah, there's certain things you can say.
And then I actually saw a picture of him. I was like, "Oh, great, yeah, no,
the
It's
best.
a good thing he didn't get fired."
Me and Tyler were
He can
pissed.
say that.
Me and Tyler were like, "Come on, CBS, sign him to a contract for a month so he can do NCAA tournament games." What are we doing here?
He's. I know that he likes doing football, but I think he said that basketball is Gus Johnson's favorite sport.
Oh man, if you look at his calls with some of that stuff, it's as good as it gets there with it. What are we at 101 here on Talking the Gridiron? We got up to 199 views here on the show tonight. People.
By the way, shout out Scotty Scheffler winning the Masters back to back.
Vince was it Lundqvist retired?
No, it was
no, that's the hockey player. What's the one I'm thinking of?
No, Vern Lundqvist, but
Vern
also
Lundqvist.
Jim Nance. So Iron Eagle, which you and I are, and everybody watching the show, guarantee you are familiar with Iron Eagle because he's like the B+ team on CBS. So it's not Tony Romo and Jim Nance, but Iron Eagle, and I can't remember who his color commentator are, but I recognize him, unfortunately, just like being dead honest. I recognize him because he kind of has like a lazy eye and he wears the glasses. It's similar, like you remember Stuart Scott after he started having those procedures. That's a similar situation with Iron Eagle. He's got a great voice. As a guy who studied broadcasting, and now I'm going to put this out here on this show because as I'm reading through the book, I'm going to give it another shout out, but I'm reading Choose Your Enemies Wisely by Patrick Bet-David, trying to do like business planning and like coming up with an idea, pushing the podcast, pushing the network forward. I want to, take these. I'm thinking about taking acting classes. I'm thinking about taking voice acting lessons, like figuring out ways to hold an audience because guys like Iron Eagle, guys like Mike Breen, guys like Kevin Harlan, Dave Logan, all of these guys can hold you with just the sound of their voice. So what are they doing that I could possibly take and add to my repertoire? Is it something that I am able to do, or do I need to find a different way to go about things? And I think Iron Eagle with the Masters today, Scotty Scheffler going back to back. Shout out, by the way, Scotty Scheffler's wife, not going into labor, allowing him to play the entire tournament. How jealous would that be? Like, how much of a bad wife move is that if you go into labor, like, going in, he won the Masters in 5 strokes. So I guess he could have.
I don't care if you're on hole 15. You get your bet over there right now.
babe, listen. Back to back. I get to choose the dinner at the start of the tournament next year if I win, and I want chicken wings.
This is your child we're talking about.
Hold it in. Just hold the kid in.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, you're right. He played there. I was watching the end of that with it because of Lundqvist on the 16th hole there as they were kind of wrapping it up there on Masters. Jimmy, this is a rare episode where we got to touch on more than, I guess, just than football tonight. But it was fun. Josh kind of joined us for WrestleMania. We had this. Jordan, obviously, hope you're doing well out there in Ohio. Prayers up to you, my friend. So we'll get you on here one of these episodes. As you know, you're always part of the show here with it. So can't wait to get you back on with it. So, Jimmy, good show again here, man.
Yeah, no, that was good. What you guys got coming up? So go ahead and give everybody your schedule for the week so they know that you're the hardest working man on Variety Sports Network.
Well, I appreciate that, my friend. But you're part of it with me, and this journey started with you on Talking the Gridiron, us doing this for this is our 3rd year. So it's kind of part of how I kind of look at it is we got baseball coming up Wednesday. We're going to do, obviously, basketball's coming up with Variety Sports with Doug on Double Double. We'll see how the playoffs look. Your Nuggets are obviously going to be highly involved. Yep, highly involved in the playoffs. So we'll probably do a lot of post
because Oklahoma City shocked the world.
They can believe it. I'm hoping to get Nico out a few times during the playoffs as well. Maybe with that.
Literally, just text him, say, "Hey, you want to talk basketball?" And he'll just FaceTime you. Be like, "Oh, what do you want to talk about?"
So I hope I can get him on with that. So it'll be great. Me and Tyler did a good Fat Boy fadeaway this way. Talked about, he said, his worst night in San Francisco. So that was part of our opening there with it this week. So he can So it was a good show. But how about you guys at Far End? What do you guys got going on?
We had I want everybody to make sure they go and check out. We had Warren Garrett, the sound of our intro song.
I saw that
with an interview, and he just released a new song, so I'm going to give him his flowers. Hardtail Heart on Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube. Hardtail Heart. It's a really good song, and it's a little bit more country like that. But he had an awesome story talking about moving when he was 18 to Nashville, and basically like making sure he had no parachute. So he moved in with like 3 other guys. Neither of the 2 other guys or 3 other guys are there making music anymore, but he's happened to stay. And he's got a lot of music coming out. So Warren Garrett at Warren Garrett Music, Hardtail Heart, check it out, stream it wherever you listen to your songs. But we had that interview, and then we've been putting out a lot of content. Just
you guys have been
obviously with March
Madness.
One
was good. I watched that one. That was good.
I really enjoyed the bonus content that we've been able to do. I enjoyed having you and Jordan on for the March Madness episode. But honestly, I know that it's my biased opinion, but again, I'm reading that business planning book for a reason. I feel like Far End of the Bench has plateaued or like been at like a stalemate for a little bit. So I'm trying to figure out how to push it over the top. But go back.
It's funny you say that because at VSN here, that's part of what we, when I mean, let's just be real. Whatever. We're talking at this point. So like we talked about me, Jordan, and Josh, we met a couple weeks, and I was like, hey, we just need to we need to kind of like, I thought we have to kind of make it smaller. We have to kind of like push the shows that we have, like our Talkin the Gridiron or other ones like that. And like even stuff like your Far End and my Fat Boy Fadeaway, who are part of the network, right? Like me, I feel like that's like those guys reached out to us. And I joined because you guys joined and all that stuff. Kind of feel like, and I talked to him. I was like, I don't think Jimmy and I are going to be offended if our stuff isn't on Variety Sports Network. We're still going to do Talkin the Gridiron because we believe in the network and we want to make a good show. Like that's part of the selling point. And we can still use our stuff as to simulcast and do that stuff off with it. But I thought that was a good move by VSN. I thought that kind of made it a little clearer. And I think we've built up a niche audience, and I'm excited for this next third season a little bit too, as we move into the regular season too.
Yeah, it's when the network was there because of like the business purpose of that word. I feel like because the network, Josh and I talked about it. I have not seen Josh in a while because we haven't been having like meetings, or he's on baseball shows or St. Louis based shows, and I hate St. Louis based sports, and I don't really talk about baseball because the Rockies suck. So we haven't seen each other, but like Variety Sports Network has brought together the group of guys that we have. And now we know who works well with whom. So like you, Jordan, and I do Talkin the Gridiron. It works pretty well, and we can bring on guests from throughout the network. And then Brandon, and I apologies for the other guys on the 5-hole show that do hockey, but they know hockey. You guys know basketball on Double Double with Doug. Like now that we have kind of an idea, it makes sense for Variety Sports to be just these specific shows. And all of our shows – it makes sense because like we wanted to have the affiliation, and obviously we're still going to keep the logo and the affiliation in the Far End of the Bench stuff, and we still simulcast and everything like that. But yeah, we're at a point now where Far End of the Bench and Variety Sports we need to move both forward, and the best way to do that is to kind of like split just barely. It's like when your mom and dad start sleeping in separate rooms. It's because dad snores and mom needs her sleep, and then they love each other all throughout the rest of the day, but they just can't sleep next to each other anymore because it's been 30 years, and I don't want to talk about it.
No, you said that well, and the support's always there. It's like saying it's like we're always going to be. It's like that's why I think Talkin the Gridiron now we're moving on.
Oh, if they decide to take this off, then you and I are coming up with another name, and we'll still have a show.
And that's why I think this has been special for me. Is like, and the same as I feel like we've built something. Maybe you can say what it is. We got 215 people that at least tuned in at some point tonight, and like we haven't had that core at the beginning when we had like 12. So it's been a lot. It's been a good journey here through the years, Jimmy. And we kind of make our way through AFC East. You'll kind of surprise me here in a couple of weeks with who we have. Then I look forward to kind of our conference. Sounds like maybe AFC South. We'll see who we go there. If we go AFC South, let me know. I got some other guys out in Tennessee that maybe would want to join. So let me know if you want to go AFC South.
Oh, we get a Titans perspective. That might be interesting. Yeah, I feel like we'll do all AFC and then we'll get into NFC. We have plenty of time. And be on the lookout. So the draft, is the 25th, so it's not this upcoming week,
We'll
but
do
it's
something
following.
there, maybe, right?
I think that we need to. I think that we got to commit to doing, because since we can do the live stuff, I have a television that's happens to be right next to my desk where I podcast from. Maybe because I happen to remember, not that we need to copy everything, but I happen to remember a little show called Pardon My Take that did basically like a StreamYard while they were watching. So we're not going to show you the draft picks. You're going to have to be watching that. It's very similar to like a fight companion, but we'll be watching the draft. I think that we should do that at least for the first round. I don't think that we need to do it past the first round.
That's a great idea. And we can show the draft picks in delay. Like we can do that.
And we can bring in different people throughout. So like you, Jordan, and I are like the core that are there. And then we bring in Nico for the initial segment. But and now that we put this out here to the public, everybody else needs to tweet at Variety Sports _ and at Brandon _ Saffel, at Coach Saffel or whatever. Just let everybody know that we need to do this for Talking the Gridiron. Live show, day of the draft. I
like it. Don't
tell anybody, but I might even play hooky from wrestling practice if we decide to do this. So we need to get this on the books.
I like it. Let's do it. That puts us at maybe 2 weeks, which gives us a little breather next week. It maybe gives us a chance here for that Thursday night special first round. I would love that. That would be awesome, Jimmy, for us to do that. My friend, it was a good show as always. Jordan, again, we're hoping you're doing well out there. Talking the Gridiron, Variety Sports Network. Jimmy, far into the bench, one of the best in the business. I'm glad that you're always doing it with me, my friend. Daren for Fat Boy Fadeaway. Be sure to check out our show Sundays. We'll see you guys hopefully on draft night, Jimmy. Draft night.
Draft night.
We'll see you then. Peace.